What's up? It's Susie from Hey Girl Hey, and today we are on the road. I'm bringing you to Lockhart, Texas with me, the home of Black's BBQ, and I'm getting a secret family recipe from Norma Jean Black herself. I'm going to be sharing that with you along with her amazing story about how Black's BBQ got started. Let's go. The minute you walk in the door, you can smell the post oak, you can see the history on the walls. And you know, when people come to Central Texas to legacy restaurants like this, they're thinking brisket and beef ribs and pork ribs, and they have all of that here. But today, it's about these beans for me. All right, all of the sides, all of the smells, and Barrett.
What's up, Susie?
Barrett is 4th generation here at Black's. He's also a very good friend of mine. Now, you grew up in these hallowed halls. You know everything there is to know about Black's.
That's right.
So what do you know about these beans?
Beans. They're not just beans, they're Norma Jean's beans.
Norma Jean's
Granny, my grandmother.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a special recipe my grandmother came up with that started with her family growing up that she brought into the restaurant. It was one of the very first sides we ever had at the restaurant.
Okay, so we are definitely going to need some of these on our barbecue platter today.
That's right. Norma Jean's here.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. You want to meet her?
We get to meet Grandma. Let's go meet Grandma. Hi, Miss Norma Jean.
Hello.
I'm Susie. It's so nice to meet you.
Hi, Susie.
Now, I've known Barrett for a couple of years.
Yes.
But we haven't met yet.
That is correct.
And I have eaten a lot of your food. So I'm so excited to get to know you a little bit better.
Good.
It's always good. Every time I've come here, it's been delicious.
And I think everybody thinks of Central Texas barbecue and they think of big meats, right? But I love the sides that you have at Black's. I think there are things that are different than other
Barbecue menus and some really unique things. So I would love to hear how you kind of kicked off the menu and what started you down this path of what you have on the menu now.
Well, it was visiting a lot of other barbecue places, but they didn't have it either. But then we went to some shopping malls and went through the cafeterias and things like that, and I just started, we could have that. So we started out just with one thing or two things at a time.
I heard that the beans were one of the first side dishes you guys had on the menu. Is that true?
Yes, it is. And they were cooking their beans, and they were fair, but it wasn't what I thought my customers would really like and want. So I just took up the recipe like I make them at home.
Yeah.
And then little by little, I added seasonings that I thought they needed and came up with this type of bean. But it took 3 or 4 years to really come up with this recipe.
With what they are now?
Yes.
Barrett said you even started with some beans, like a style of beans that they cooked that you had even growing up in your family.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So this is a real legacy side dish.
Yes, it is. It's sort of the way my grandmother started. And I took her recipe and I took my mother's recipe and then I put my part to it. And this is what we came up with. And my customers started saying, "Oh, your beans are so good, what have you done to them?" So I thought, well, maybe I better just stay right where I am.
Your beans are so good. And I actually, Barrett told me you would be willing to share your beans recipe
Oh, yes.
with me. Is that okay?
Yes,
Can we
it
share
is.
them with my friends also?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. You can just walk me through how you make your beans. I know it took you several years to get to where they are now, but what does that process look like? Because Barrett told me a little bit about it, and it's pretty unique.
Well, the first thing we have to do is we buy the beans, buy large bags. And then,
They're pinto beans, right?
yes.
Pinto beans is the base?
They're pinto beans as the base. And then we added, of course, salt and pepper. And the chili powder to have a little bling to it. And started cooking them. And all I had to cook with when I first started here was a apartment stove that had 4 burners. And it was about 2 foot wide, and so was the oven, and I'll have marks from it too.
Oh my gosh. Those are scars that last.
So, and then little by little I'd add this and I'd add that over the years. And then I'd taste beans somewhere else and I'd try to figure out now what is it that I'm tasting that's so good that I think we need. So I would do that. And this is what we finally ended up with. And
So what are the main components of the beans? I think you have pinto beans.
Yes.
What else? And I know you have some chili pepper, some salt and pepper. What are some of the other basic things that go into your beans?
well,
I know there's some meat in there.
yes, we put some salt pork. We cook them with that. And that's what's put in there, and that gives it a good flavor and adds a little, we don't have to add much salt to the beans that way. And we cook it with that for a while. And I didn't have anything to cook the beans in, so I bought an electric roaster oven.
Yeah, like you use for the big turkeys at Thanksgiving.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And we cook them in there at a real slow pace.
Yeah.
And then little by little, I'd add a little bit of this and that to sort of add a little bit. Sometimes I'd add a little bit of brown sugar, just a tablespoon or so.
Yeah. And I think there's some onions in there as well.
Oh, yes.
When do you add the onions to your beans?
I do that in the very beginning.
Yeah. So the onions and the salt pork and the beans all cook together, covered in
together.
water?
Yes, covered in water.
And then do you add the seasonings at the beginning of the cooking process?
Yes, I do. Then we have the chili powder and the salt and pepper, of course. And if I do add, most of the time I don't have to add sugar because certain beans seem to have a little more flavor that I don't need.
I
to do
love
all
that your beans are savory. I think they complement everything that you have going on so well. And your other sides, you have some really sweet dessert, so it's great to have a nice savory, rich bean. Barrett told me I have to ask you about bumping the beans. What is bumping the beans? He said when he was a kid, he grew up that was his job, is he stir and had to bump the beans.
The beans. Well, when I had come help my husband when he was becoming ill, and I had to come help him. I had to learn all this myself. And he said, we need to bump the beans. And I went back there and I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you have to bump the beans to make them taste good. And I said, well, he said it's stirring them and making them and hitting them against each other.
So the beans are bumping each other.
They're bumping
in the
each
pan.
other, and we call it bumping the beans. And you do that along the time when the skin on the bean is beginning to break.
Yeah.
And you have the thickness comes out of the bean and makes the juice nice and thick and flavory.
Because your beans are really luscious, like refried beans, but they're not pureed. They're not smooth.
No.
Like you still get each individual bean, but they're really luscious and lovely.
Yes.
And that's from bumping the beans.
Bumping the beans.
I learned something new. I'm taking bumping the beans home with me. Talk to me about the time it takes to make these beans. Like how long does it take to make these beans?
Well, I not sure how long they're cooking them right now because I'm not down here to watch all of that, but the way I used to on the electric roaster ovens, it would be at least 12 hours.
Wow.
They would simmer overnight real slowly
Yeah.
and then finish off in the daytime. And so it come out to about 10 to 12 hours.
Low and slow like barbecue.
Yes. You can't cook food fast.
No, not good food.
No,
Good food takes
no.
time. Well, I am so incredibly grateful that you took the time to sit with me today and share your beans recipe. I think recipes and stories like this need to be preserved. I think they're
Yes.
part of the fabric of what makes barbecue great. They're the fabric of what makes America awesome.
Yes.
And people being able to come to Black's and experience this type of food is, for some people, a once in a lifetime trip and experience. And
Oh, yes.
I would love everybody to come and experience Black's firsthand. But if anybody can't, now they can have a little bit of Black's in their backyard and a little bit of Norma Jean's beans at home.
Okay.
And I think having your recipe be able to carry on for even more generations is absolutely amazing. So thank you
Yes.
so much for sharing it with me.
Well, thank you.
This was great. I'm so grateful. Are you hungry? We have a lot of food. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, Barrett, and Mrs. Norma Jean. I hope you guys love this little behind the scenes look at Black's barbecue. Take a little bit of that barbecue history with you and a new recipe for really beautiful beans that you can try in your own backyard. We'll see you next time.